Once upon a time there lived a certain rich man whose name was 1%, and whose intent and only ambition was to garner the attention and praise of men and women he didn't even know. No, the show that was his life had his home towering high over a skyline that was rather quaint otherwise, in a town with no name. No fame, no gain, nothing to show for his insane and obscene amount of wealth which he had gleaned from not paying his people so well. Oh well, $10 an hour doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. Skeleton crew, grinding the few workers he used and abused to the bone, trying to skew their timesheets to keep their weeks under the peak where he could sneak them on his contractors rather than salaried workers, retracting their benefits and saving a ton on health insurance. So this wealthy man, unsatisfied by the simple pleasures of life, began to fix his eyes far beyond the horizon. I, he sighed, chin held high, will build a spire to the sky, so high, so grand that not one single man who walks this planet will be ignorant of this great monument. So the man set to work, searching the world for the best builders and architects that money could fetch. Yet from the onset he ran into a catch, that his cash could only finance a tower 1/10 the size of the Herculean spire he had pictured in his mind. So he did what any rich man would do, and phoned the mayor, who he was quite close to. "My friend," he bellowed, "good news. I have chosen you to help me, for me to help you put this no-name town on the map. Yes, with a chap of your caliber in the saddle, there's no doubt about it. Hands down, this town must be taken higher. How, you inquire? A spire is what we need. You see, business here is slow, so to grow we must let them know, here we are here, no name, no more." So with the mayor on board, a new tax was born to transform a town once forlorn and forgotten into a mecca of unparalleled fortune and profit, known from east to west for its breathtaking obelisk. The rich man, impressed with his own wit and shrewdness, went to bed that night feeling blessed, yet not the rest of the town, who awoke now at the behest of a mayor's order for the tax chest to be filled for a rich man's jest. Protests and picket lines, unrest and brightly painted signs filled the quiet streets of a municipality that, unlike the rich man who dreamed of grandiose things, had once been quite happy with the simplicity of mediocrity. Food to eat, clothes to wear, a roof overhead and friends to share, meals together, burdens to bear, celebrations in the town square of significant life events, footprints tracked together as neighbors and friends, no ego to stroke, no rivalry to stoke, just doing life with the folks in your zip code, no name town, no problemo. But the rich man, he was aghast. He dialed the mayor so fast, demanding a chance to cast his vision for the masses of how his spire to the sky would benefit all classes and walks of life. The mayor bent over backwards, erecting a makeshift platform and quelling the protesters with some good old-fashioned riot gear and crowd control tactics. "My fellow citizens," the rich man began, standing tall and grand above his townsmen, "it has been brought to my attention that a grave and terrible plan has been concocted against our peaceful haven. Yes, our most hated and disdained neighbors, they have undertaken to pilfer and finagle every last one of our loyal and faithful patrons who regularly engage in our services and vocations, completely vexing our economic situation and nixing our every hope of making an honest living. How, you may ask? Let me fill in the gaps. Those scallywags are planning to monopolize the skyline of this great countryside with a tower so high to the sky that none will be able to pass by without going to see the sight, which is why we must waste no time and build a spire of our own, the size of Texas, no bigger than Texas, a nexus greater and grander than the one planned to be erected by our neighbors, so we don't lose the race and forfeit our entire fate to them." So from that day on, with the seed of fear planted in their ears, many left the opposition and took positions in the rich man's brand new corporation, Spire Enterprises, a public-private partnership propped up by the townspeople's hard-earned cash and fully subsidized. Yet, no surprise, many still did not see eye to eye with the guise of needing a spire to take them higher and make them famous. So they sat down in demonstration around town hall and made a few phone calls to the administration of the neighboring town, purportedly building a spire of their own, only to unearth that no such undertaking had ever been in the works. Night and day the protests gained force until the rich man could take no more. Once again he climbed his platform. This time a much more somber and serious tone colored his words. "My friends," he blurted, "be on alert. Our neighbors, they have heard of our incredible spire and have," the rich man paused and scoured, "declared war. So before they can attack us with their hordes, we must attack them and ransack their plans for total regional domination. Tonight we move, not a moment too soon, and strike. Otherwise, we might not be alive to see tomorrow's morning light. Yes, those, them, they are our number one priority." Instantly, the mayor sounded the alarm, and all the strapping young men from miles around were armed and prepped to battle to the death to deter this looming existential threat. The protest quickly disbanded, no one wanting to be branded unpatriotic, and the band played as the boys marched off to combat. And in no time at all, the streets again began to echo with the sound of clanking metal and soldering steel. This time, no moral appeal from the people was allowed to hinder and interfere with the clear and austere sound of progress. Well, none, that is, but one little exception, a small blip on the radar screen of the rich man's path to architectonic perfection. A little girl, whose name was We the People, stood firm, undeterred by the words that she heard of ruthless aggression disguised as appropriate retaliation. "It's just not right," she huffed, holding her puff paint sign even higher. "No spire," she chanted against the rising skyline, one single voice ringing out against the rich man's towering enterprise. In time, curiosity grew as rumors began to stew about the little girl who was not backing down. Her sound resounded all through the town, penetrating down to the hearts and moral consciences of the men and women hired to construct the monument, and slowly their work ground to a halt. "No war, no spire," her voice rose ever higher. "Our young men will not die for this monstrosity, this monument to the enrichment of Mr. 1%. We the people will not benefit, nor do we want to, from this disgraceful monolith." On and on she raved till her voice was carried by some airwave to the rich man's place, and boy was he hot, cross, hoppin' mad that the work had stopped because of some sad and sorry little no-name girl from a no-name town that he was trying to put on the map. Ingrate, he stewed as he threw on his shoes and flew out the door to storm the mayor's office with a warning that if this nonsense didn't cease, his hope for re-election would be bleak. Eager to appease, the mayor, with the rich man on his heels, rushed out into the street, where We the People had not eased up one single degree, adamantly making her plea for a moral and just decree to roll down from the town's highest authority. "Cease and desist," the rich man hissed, shaking his fist at the little miss. "This charade of yours ends today." Yet, unfazed, We the People did not so much as shift her gaze. "I will not go, right here I'll stay, until that spire comes down, or you haul me away." Upon hearing her stubborn refusal to be subdued, the rich man nearly blew a fuse and began to lose it. "Mayor, you must recuse her and restore law and order within these borders, or else." And although the mayor knew deep down that she had every right to stand around and let her voice resound in protest, he called for her immediate arrest. And as the police closed in, it looked like the sure end of any and all opposition to the brutal and insatiable ambition of Mr. 1%. Yet in that fateful moment, the most unlikely turn of events unfolded, and the one ace in the hole that the rich man never saw coming, which is commonly known as a storybook ending, well, it happened, because although he was a very smart man, he had grown up and forgotten the most important lesson from the Saturday morning cartoons of his childhood: good always triumphs over evil in the end. For just as the police apprehended the young lass, our heroine, We the People, she reached down and found a rock no bigger than a golf ball and hurled that small projectile in the direction of the nearly completed spire, which shattered a third-story window and landed smack dab in the middle of a crack in a beam that had gone unseen when it had been improperly installed on December 18th by a very drowsy worker named Dean, who had not slept a wink all week because he couldn't afford to heat his one-bedroom suite on the rich man's meager salary. And the impact, well, that's all she wrote. That load-bearing beam broke like a twig and imploded the rich man's colossal tour de force in one harrowing or heroic moment, depending on how you look at it. As for the rich man, he moved to a neighboring town where his ambition for a grand new undertaking is still bogged down with the city's planning commission. The mayor, he repented and promised to once again serve and uphold the people's interests. And the town, oh, the dear people, lived happily ever after, thanks to one little girl with the courage to stand up to the powers that be. And she, well, she went on to greater things. She married and had a family and opened a sign business supplying pickets and placards to anti-war activists all over the world. And above all, she lived a life of love and kept a watchful eye over the community she called home, a no-name girl from a no-name town, forever grateful that she had not allowed her voice to be drowned out by the crowd.